Is the world standing at the edge of a conflict that could become one of the most dangerous confrontations of the last 100 years? Assalamu alaikum. You are watching Pulse America News and I am Kundi. In today's video, we are going to analyze a rapidly changing and highly sensitive situation. Reports suggest that the United States has started moving some of its troops overnight from certain military bases. There are indications of limited but significant repositioning from bases in Qatar and Bahrain. Earlier, some military families had already been relocated to different countries. Now, the key question is, if the situation is so serious, why is this movement taking place? Usually, when tensions rise in a region, forces are shifted to safer or more strategic positions to reduce potential risk in case of an unexpected attack. At this moment, the atmosphere in the Middle East appears tense. Several international media outlets are discussing the possibility that if any strike occurs, retaliation could follow. Defense analysts often explain that major military installations can become potential targets during escalations. That is why preemptive repositioning is considered a normal military precaution. It is important to understand that troop movement does not always mean a full evacuation. In many cases, it is a redeployment strategy. Forces are distributed across different locations to maintain operational flexibility and minimize concentrated losses. The United States already maintains a significant military presence in the region, including aircraft carriers, fighter jets, bombers, naval strike groups, and air defense systems. When such preparations are visible, it does not automatically mean that war is certain. Sometimes military strength is displayed as a deterrent strategy. The purpose can be to discourage the opposing side from taking aggressive steps. However, it is also true that when public statements become more direct and red lines are emphasized, the level of risk increases. Recent public remarks from officials have indicated that military options remain on the table if certain conditions are not met. At the same time, there are reports suggesting that any attack could trigger retaliation against regional assets. This possibility may explain why forces are being repositioned. Military experts often say that if a country believes its bases are within missile or drone range, it will spread out its forces to reduce vulnerability. Concentrating too many troops in one place can increase the potential for heavy casualties in a single strike. Diplomatic activity is also accelerating. Some countries have issued travel advisories, urging their citizens to avoid certain areas or leave if necessary. Such steps are typically precautionary and reflect uncertainty rather than confirmed conflict. Governments in Europe and Asia are closely monitoring developments. Analysts are also warning that if tensions escalate further, oil prices could rise sharply, affecting the global economy. In times of geopolitical instability, gold prices often increase as investors look for safer assets. Inside the United States, debate is ongoing. Some lawmakers argue that before any major military action, congressional approval should be sought. They emphasize that a large-scale conflict could have far-reaching consequences, including cyber threats, regional instability, and risks to American personnel. Others argue that in matters of national security, swift decisions may sometimes be required. This internal debate is part of the democratic process and often surfaces before major strategic moves are made. Regionally, the situation is complex. Tensions involving Israel, Lebanon, and Yemen have also been reported in recent months. Missile tests, cross-border incidents, and strong political statements have all contributed to an environment of uncertainty. If multiple fronts become active at the same time, the crisis could expand beyond a single bilateral confrontation. This is why many analysts describe the current moment as a potential regional flashpoint rather than just a dispute between two countries. The next steps remain uncertain. One possibility is that despite strong rhetoric and military positioning, diplomacy prevails at the last moment. History shows that countries have stepped back from the brink of war after intense negotiations. Another possibility is a limited strike, followed by international pressure leading to de-escalation. The most dangerous scenario would be a chain reaction of actions and counteractions that spirals out of control. At Pulse America News, we aim to provide balanced analysis rather than sensational claims. It is essential to rely on verified information and avoid spreading unconfirmed rumors. War is never a simple solution. It brings human loss, economic damage, and long-term instability. The coming days could be critical. Whether events move toward dialogue or confrontation will depend on strategic decisions made at the highest levels. Stay informed, stay aware, and continue following reliable updates as this situation develops.
As tensions continue to build, many observers are now focusing on the possible global consequences of any direct confrontation. If a major strike were to take place, the immediate reaction would likely not be limited to one battlefield. Financial markets could respond within minutes. Oil prices might surge sharply due to fears of supply disruptions in the Gulf region. Global stock markets could experience volatility, and investors might shift toward traditional safe haven assets. In today's interconnected world, even a regional military escalation can have worldwide economic ripple effects. Another important factor is energy security. A significant portion of the world's oil supply passes through critical maritime routes in the Middle East. If shipping lanes were threatened or temporarily disrupted, energy importing countries in Asia and Europe could face serious pressure. Higher fuel prices would impact transportation, manufacturing, and household expenses. This is why global powers are watching the situation so closely. Stability in this region is directly linked to global economic balance. There's also the cyber dimension to consider. Modern conflicts are no longer fought only with missiles and aircraft. Cyber operations can target infrastructure, communication networks, financial systems, and even public utilities. Experts frequently warn that in any large-scale confrontation, cyber retaliation could play a major role. This adds another layer of unpredictability. Governments and private institutions alike may increase their defensive readiness in anticipation of potential digital threats. At the diplomatic level, back-channel talks often continue even during public escalation. While official statements may appear firm and uncompromising, negotiations sometimes take place quietly behind closed doors. International organizations and neutral countries may attempt mediation to prevent further deterioration. Historically, many crises have been diffused through discreet diplomacy rather than public declarations. Whether such efforts are currently underway is not always visible to the public, but they are often a key part of crisis management. Another angle being discussed by analysts is the internal political impact in major countries involved. Large military actions can influence domestic politics, public opinion, and leadership approval ratings. Economic strain caused by prolonged tension can also create pressure at home. Leaders must balance external strategic objectives with internal stability. This balancing act often shapes the pace and scale of decisions made during high-risk situations. Some strategic observers suggest that global competitors may view such a crisis as an opportunity to expand their influence diplomatically or economically. Shifts in alliances, trade relationships, and currency strength could follow prolonged instability. However, these outcomes depend heavily on how long tensions last and whether escalation can be contained. A short-lived confrontation would have different consequences compared to a prolonged regional war. It is equally important to emphasize that not every military movement leads to direct combat. Nations frequently conduct repositioning exercises, joint drills, and readiness adjustments as part of standard defense planning. While the current rhetoric appears strong, final outcomes depend on decisions that may still be under review. Predicting war with certainty is difficult because geopolitical crises often change direction quickly. Public reaction also plays a role. In the age of social media, information spreads instantly. Unfortunately, so does misinformation. Dramatic claims, unverified casualty numbers, and exaggerated predictions can fuel panic. Responsible reporting requires caution, clarity, and reliance on credible sources. At Pulse America News, our goal is to analyze developments carefully without promoting fear or speculation. If diplomacy succeeds, this period may eventually be remembered as a moment of high tension that was ultimately resolved without large-scale destruction. If it fails, historians may describe it as a turning point that reshaped regional dynamics. Either way, the coming days and weeks are likely to be decisive. Strategic patience, communication channels, and calculated restraint will be critical factors. As always, we encourage viewers to stay informed through reliable updates and avoid spreading unverified information. Complex international situations require thoughtful discussion rather than emotional reaction. The world is watching closely, and decisions made now could influence global stability for years to come. You are watching Pulse America News, and I am Kundi. Share your thoughts in the comments. Keep the discussion respectful and stay connected for further balanced updates as this situation develops.